Good day everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Trix of course, and today I'm going to be talking about some reveals that have happened over a few weeks. But mainly I'm going to be talking about were they originally part of the original squad army list and what is and what isn't new. There's going to be a lot of talk about what they've done to the aesthetic of the Votann / squads, and some people really do not like it, some people like it, and if you don't like something, that's perfectly up to you. If you like it, that's also great. Try not to ruin anyone's, parade or anything like that. That's all I ask. Anyway, so we're going to start with the bikes. The bikes originally were an important part of the squad army list back in the day, or in Epic as well. Squad bikers used to have a couple of things that they don't have now. They have a lot of changes. So squad trikes were a choice back in the day before we had a force organisation chart. Basically you just had heroes, troops, and then you had maybe some artillery as well, and that's how armies were structured back in 1st, 2nd edition. Later on we got the more recognised one with fast attack, elites, heavy support, etc, etc. But back then really there was only two choices: your hero, troops, and maybe some artillery as well, and that was it basically. So the bikes operated in that troops area, but there was another choice for a heavy support trike, which was in the sort of like artillery area right at the end. But they seem to push them together into one choice. These are part of the Pioneer Guild and also Engineers Guild. So basically these are, or were, a group of individuals who operated basically outside the stronghold structure system, but would ally with various strongholds during war, basically through mutual cooperation. Now they seem to be sort of like outrunners. We don't know how involved they are with the Engineers Guild or whatever guilds that they've decided to call them. We know a couple of guild names, but I'll come to that in a moment. So they are armed with a sort of autocannon on the front. There is a heavy support choice with a massive Halaz laser cannon, which is a triple barreled thing, and maybe an iron cannon as well, which is an interesting choice. We know that the Votann or squads are demiurge basically to the town. Now a lot of people are going to be annoyed by that. Some people are going to accept it, and I don't care. It's perfectly reasonable. We haven't seen the stats for the iron weapons that the bog standard trooper carries. We can't say anything until we see those, how good or bad they are. The article about the trikes mainly goes into the design point of view. Originally they were very inspired by that Easy Rider, Hell's Angel motif, right down to the chopper style bikes. Now they are sleeker, rounder, and they are unfortunately painted in that teal painting scheme that seems to be everywhere. I know some people like it. I don't. I think that it's too... You can have one army with teal. Having like 8 armies with teal is annoying in my opinion. Might not be to you, it just is to me. The Berserks are basically replacing a Slayer or a Cyber Slayer motif that they toyed around with at the end of 2nd edition but never really released. Cyber Slayers were basically your atypical dwarf slayers, people who had become wronged, or they had committed some crime or some faux pas that forced them to basically augment themselves into some sort of heroic or pyrrhic individual, which basically went around bashing things in order to get themselves killed. We don't know if that's true about the Scythonian Berserks, but we do know a couple of things. They carry really big weaponry, hammers, plasma axes with the plasma weaponry that the Votann uses, and they're heavily augmented. Now the Scythonia name comes from the original homeworld of Horus. What relation they have to that, we don't know, but I will include an interesting bit of heresy lore now. Apparently when Horus rebelled, a group of individuals from Scythonia were taken from that planet. They were loyalists, and they were incorporated into Imperial Fists, apparently. This source is one of the latest novels or something, and one of the latest short stories, so I thought that would be interesting to include as, well, Scythonia is mentioned. We only have 2 more to go, so I hope you're sticking with me. Scythonian Berserks again, the teal skin. There's a lot of interesting things here with the hammers. Female dwarves or female Votann are really present in this army, and that's a good thing. More designs are good in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like it. That's perfectly up to you. To each their own, that's what I say. Now we're going to be moving on from that to the ATV, or all-terrain vehicle, or armoured terrain vehicle, whatever you want to call them, which is seems to be some sort of, it's basically a weapons platform and a troop transport. It's been called the Moon Buggy by quite a few people, myself included, on Twitter. It goes back to a really interesting old design that a lot of people haven't picked up on. You see, back in first edition there was a squat hover car, and it really reminds me of that because of its bubble shape. Now I'll put a picture of the original bubble car or hover car on the screen. Obviously the ATV is much better looking, but remember this was first and second edition. Models were very limited back in those days, and they were strongly limited by P2E abilities that are being cast, and they were strongly limited by, well, plastic production isn't what it is today, and they simply didn't have the moulds to create them. Now they did have a plastic Space Dwarf box for a long time, but it was a bit before my time actually starting. But the Moon Buggy is really cool. It's got 6 wheels, it's got like these bubble cockpits and various different weaponries. We need to see a little bit more on what it actually does, but it mentions that you can take a full squad of the base troopers in 2 of these vehicles. Now it says a maximum squad is 20 if we look at other articles. Does this vehicle hold 10 or 20? If it holds 10, well, 5 basically each vehicle, that means you need 2 per squad of 10. However, if they hold 10 each, you're going to need, well, 2 for one squad of 20. So basically we need to know what's going on here. I will include a couple of other things in this video. We haven't seen any big units yet. We haven't seen any characters units yet. This is going to be slotted into my other video. So this is me from the future. Woo! But I'll go back to the past afterwards. So what happened is they've released a squat warlord, or what used to be called a squat warlord. They've named them a Cal or Carl, depending on how that umlauts over the A, is that the right word, is sounded. We're going to look at the past version of this character and make some guesses maybe, but maybe more talk about how they were presented previously and how it looks now. A few things we can look at the design and the weapons. You see, it's got a Volkite weapon or a power fist option. It's also got a plasma axe version and some sort of storm bolter. So this is the first time we've seen actual storm bolter on a squat or a Votann model. Back in the day, they were called Warlords, not Carls, and Warlords were armed with las pistol, frag and crack grenades, carapace armour, which had a 4+ save back then. I think carapace still has 4+ now in some games, and they were allowed 3 war gear cards. War gear cards were basically giving you character relics, if you understand. They enabled you to take special weapons or special items that would affect the battle. The chief among these during 2nd edition was the Vortex Grenade or the Virus Grenade, which could wipe out your opponent in a turn. Warlords were important because they had a weapon skill of 7, ballistic skill of 6, leadership of 10, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, initiative 5, strength 4, and they were 74 points apiece. Remember, this was the time of Hero Hammer, and your armies were built around a central character. This character could make or break a battle simply because of how hard and how tough and how geared up they were. Codex Arminius really does not have much more information beyond that. It names a bit of armour that they could have. Exo armour, of course, was their version of power armour. They don't have this, or Carl doesn't have that on the armour. He has that bog standard Hearthkin, bog standard warrior armour with a couple of exceptions. He's got a coat. One may which be a Ironkin head, just made to look more human or kin-like, shall we say. They had force fields were very prevalent in Warhammer 40,000 back then as they are now. They could have force fields which would basically be invulnerable saves that we have now. Those force fields were Refractor, Conversion and Displacer. Displacer being the best one, 3+ save. Conversion being 4 and Refractor being 5. They had a large choice of weapons which we don't know what they'll have, but they definitely have those 2 options as I previously mentioned. We are going to look a little bit now at Codex Imperialis from 2nd edition. Codex Imperialis give you or gave me or gave us back then a little bit of a better look into how the army lore worked. There was something called a mighty hero, which was the version of a squat warlord, which is now the Cal or Carl. I'm going to call it Carl because it reminds me of Carl from Deep Rock Galactic or Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, depending on your flavour of Carl. Or maybe that Carl meme with the llama wearing the hat, maybe that one does it for you. Squats used to hate orcs and goblins, or orcs and Gretchen as they are known in Warhammer 40,000, or orcs and grots now as they are known. They hated them, which basically enabled you to re-roll melee attacks and attacks against them. Will they have that in the future? We don't know. Lots of things are changing about the Votann / squats, so we don't know much of what they are going to be able to do. Those cards with standing, where we got some names of the Hecatan Land Train or Hecatan Battle Fortress or whatever it's going to be called, there's also possibility of a Goliath appearing at some point as well. It is important to note that the Cal is very Nordic or Norse in origin, but the Hecatan is more Greek, so it really depends on how things go. So that's it for the Cal. I'm going to insert this into my other video, so if you're watching this adds on a couple of minutes to that one, sorry about that, and on with the video previously. We've only seen quite a few bits and pieces here. Now we do see the exo armor, which went from their egg shape into a more boxy shape, which again was a redesign of the exo armor for 2nd edition that never really appeared. Do I like it? Again, it's unfortunately in this teal scheme. They have like these fists with plasma blades which come out of them. We need to see the rules on that, how heavy AP that is. It seems to be that they're armed with a Volkite weapon. Volkites are a bit weird in their ability to penetrate armor, so normally it's very, very limited on what they can do. Even the big cannons that you have in the Horus Heresy or on that Sakarian battle tank, I think that's only got a maximum of AP2, which for a weapon that's basically a microwave cannon makes me think that, well, it makes sense really, because microwaves can't go past a certain amount of metal, so it does make sense in my regards why it works like that. But we need to see again. But they do have some sort of grenade launcher on top of themselves also. Again, we need to see that. Where these will fill a niche, again, we don't know, and we know nothing. We know nothing about the rules for these, except the stats that they released for the troop choices ages and ages ago. I could do a video on that if you want me to, but I think it's been explored to the death, and this video and my series is going to be looking at it from someone from years ago who see them die, see them become an annoyance, a meme, saw them slowly be reintroduced in Necromunda as still a bit of a meme, still a bit of a joke, but then they got quite a few more characters, and then they got the squat box for Necromunda, and now the Votann are appearing. From what I can find out, or what people are saying, Votann are after demons. They should occupy a time between now and November, apparently, but we don't know if that's just going to be a box, because we've seen cards with pictures on them which are only present in those army boxes, maybe, or maybe it will just be part of their special edition that gets released because they've been gone for so long and they're re-imaging them. It's nice to see that for people who had armies of squats, and I've talked to a few people about who still have those odd armies, and they're really excited about bringing them back. And it's also fun for people who have never had one, myself included, because they were basically gone. And although I like the idea of a space dwarf, what they are doing with them needs a little bit more fleshing out, in my opinion. Because originally they were dwarfs in space, and it seems to be they are dwarfs in space still, but instead of ancestor gods, they've got ancestor cores. We need to see a bit more background of what they were doing in between these years of basically being gone, which will be nice. Maybe they were just chumming up to the town. A couple of other things that I will do now is, the first thing is they are talked about in a couple of articles about being mercenaries, so maybe they'll be useful as allies to the Tau, Imperial, and maybe Eldar as well. We don't know, but it does mention that they are mercenaries, or mercenary-like in their behaviour. The last thing I want to talk about very quickly is the Croot for Kill Team. Croot in Kill Team are apparently not part of the Tau Empire. They are maybe working on behalf of somebody else, or maybe working on behalf of themselves. Kroot are a bit weird as a race because their homeworld is a forest that looks like it has no technological industry whatsoever. However, they can produce weapons, spaceships, and a few other bits and pieces apparently as well. Kroot are a species that go after DNA, and when they consume an enemy, they can absorb the DNA in some weird, bizarre way and incorporate that into themselves. From what I've been able to find out and what's out there, it seems to be this kin band, that's what they call them, going to the Space Hulk to find more DNA. However, there is a distinct taboo in Kroot culture of chaos and tyrannid DNA. So what will they find there? Imperials? Well, the humans are plenty enough in the Imperium. So what they will be doing is a mystery. Maybe we'll find out soon. That's the last thing I want to talk about, because I hope that Kroot will get a mercenary keyword and you can use them in more than just Tau armies, because that's what they like. They're mercenaries. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope that video, or this video, has been a bit illuminating for someone. Even if I only get one like or one comment, it's really appreciated it, and I can't thank everyone enough for sticking with the channel. So thank you all. Again, I'm Trix. If you can like and subscribe, that really helps me out. Leave me a comment, that really helps me out. Let's have a nice discussion in the comments about Votann or Croot or whatever you want to see, really. I will be doing a couple of other Necrobunda videos apparently soon. There is some things to talk about the Book of the Outcast and the way that the narrative campaign will be going, so please stay tuned for all those. Thank you all for your time, and bye bye.